Hey everyone, welcome to Afterwards, the first episode of Afterwards. I guess this is Afterwards for episode 14, which is sort of like our season 2 coming back from the holiday season. I'm here to talk about the session that you just saw, and I'm going to also dip in a little bit to the podcasty extra material that we did afterwards. I think it's going to be released later in the week, and I'll get to why we did that in a minute. So this is our first season, our first episode coming back of the season. I'll talk a little bit about sort of the season as a whole. I was really kind of struggling figuring out what to do coming back for this season because a lot of where we left it at the end of season 3 was a little bit ambiguous. Things kind of like wrapped themselves up pretty nicely, and I was really hesitant to just jump right back into it and be like, okay, and now like what's next? Because I feel like it would have been like, well, I guess we have to go. You know, people are like, I guess there's going to be a war with Easter, and there's going to be battles and all that, and I was like, no. Like, first off, no character is ready for that. Like, especially Christine doesn't have the army nor the resources to start that battle. And additionally, I don't really think there's a lot of grounds because there's a whole king who can come down on their asses if they start, fighting one of his lords. So I had to kind of move them away from the situation, and I wanted to explore more of the world. I sat all the players down, and I was like, "What do you want to see in this coming season?" And a lot of people said, "Well, we want a challenge, we want to see more of the world, and we want bigger risks." And so I said, "Great, let's do that." And that's where we've been like tentatively titling this new sort of arc, Sands of Syraxis, because it's taking place on a continent. I'll grab this map here. It's taking place over here, more specifically kind of in this region. Here's where they were. So they've been, the party's been kidnapped by the father of Clarion's love interest, that is the man who forced him essentially to leave the Sherry region. And now he's kidnapped the party because he needs them to save his daughter, essentially. This plotline, I'm actually really proud of the way that it worked out. I was having a lot of trouble, because I was just going to have him kidnap them and force them to do something, just kind of like have him be more of an antagonist rather than sort of you're not sure of what he is. I was going to have him sort of be more of a villain role, but I was like, why? If this guy, because he's like infinitely wealthy, does he keep getting Clarion? Like, why does he want Clarion to do this? And then it sort of became, oh, well, it's not his choice. This is just because this is all that his daughter is going to accept because she is making an illogical action, which sort of led me into the theme for this whole season. And love is the season's theme. I'm kind of playing with the ideas of love and of romance, and particularly like chivalrous, like fantasy romance, like here we have Clarion bringing I keep looking to where Casey would sit, bringing Clarion, having him bring the woman he loves a rose. There's a lot of like romance novels, and we have a lot of characters. We'll see a villain coming up who has become a villain because she is no longer with her love. There's other people who are trying to prove their love as major villains this season. So love is a motivation for a lot of characters. We're exploring with Christine, sort of, is she in love with Gregory? Because they got married pretty fast, and I don't necessarily think they're in love yet. I think that they like each other enough to have this union, but I think Christine has a lot of doubts about it, especially because she's kind of just a pawn in someone else's scheme. And does she love this new family that she hasn't really had too much, only like a year and a half to really get to know? And we'll see some other stuff from some of I'm still working out like sort of the arcs for the other people. Once we get through this dungeon, then we'll be able to see a bit more. Dungeon! I really wanted to do a dungeon. I had a random... we randomly generated the dungeon with the new Dungeon Master's Guide, and that was really fun, just to kind of like be, okay, this room, and then once I had all the rooms, I started going through and being like, okay, well, what could this room be? And this, I rolled the dungeon with Pamela, who plays Christine, and then I populated the dungeon myself, so she didn't know what the hell was in it. So it was really fun to make a dungeon, because I haven't done that for Threshold yet. But I was a little bit unsure of how exactly it would work, because I don't know if you've done a dungeon crawl in your own games, but it can be a huge slog trying to get through every room, and like I listen at the door, and like everyone being super cautious, because there is a little bit of a metagame that comes with being in a dungeon, because you know it's a dungeon. Like, compare our dungeon crawl to, like, say, the exploration of the Bliss Factory. Like, the exploration of the Bliss Factory was like, let's go in, and then, you know, Rasper got big, and then he tears through the door, and then the combat happens, and it's like, boom, boom, boom. You know, it's over in an hour, versus this dungeon, you know, we've put our hour 40-minute episode into it, and then an additional podcast. We just recorded some audio of, you know, another hour and a half. And it got a little bit metagamey. I'm sure you'll notice this with a lot of the players kind of like playing a little more cautiously, a little bit more like, oh look, loot, shinies, let's take them, and then a lot of like discussing what to do or where to go or what direction, and wanting to split up. And that was really interesting to see. I don't know if that was just getting back into the swing of it and some old habits from like RPGs coming back a little bit. Or if now people are so attached to their characters that they're really trying to preserve them more. I almost killed Clarion. I'm actually glad we handled that death correctly, because I didn't think I outright killed him. But we got to figure out what's up with his HP, because that was really scary. But they won't do that again, so lesson learned. Yeah, the doing the podcast was fun. That was again later in the week, just a continuation, and of course the PCs go through anytime you build a dungeon, they're gonna go through it backwards. An interesting thing came up, because they did go through it the way that I didn't anticipate them to go through it, but looking back now, it's the way that I should have anticipated them to go through it. Because it was, in a lot of ways, the path of least resistance. It was either, I think Kevin said, you can either choose to traverse a pit that is like falling apart and crumbling, or you can go down this nice set of stairs. It was like, well, of course they're gonna take, of course they're gonna take the stairs. Like, and I should have just realized that, because it was supposed to be the gnolls, and then you discover the secret cult behind, and instead it was, oh, and then within the secret cult, you discover like the ancient, you know, armory that they haven't found, and instead it was the other way around. They went up, they found the armory first, and they found the cult, and they haven't even seen the gnolls yet. And then the podcast, of course, put us to sort of like the boss room, quote unquote, of this dungeon, which will actually be a nice scene where we get a little bit of them doing the dungeon, we get Clarion almost dying, and then we'll pick it up with them about to go confront this goddess that this cult is worshiping. The cult was fun to play, but again, it got a little bit metagamey, because they were seeing a lot of petrified statues. She's a Medusa, the lady of this dungeon. She has a pet basilisk. And so as soon as they started seeing petrified people, like all their ears went up and they were like, oh goodness. So then, you know, Jamie like tried to obscure his eyes with a cloth, and then we had Rasper's like, I am gonna grab a shiny pan, and Christina's like, I'm gonna make a blindfold out of, and like none of them were doing this together. It wasn't like everyone comes together and it's like, okay, this is what we need to do to handle this problem. We have these, check, let's go do it. It was more like everyone was trying to hedge their bets and to like slowly put their feet in the water to figure out if they needed to jump in at all. Which got a little bit frustrating, because it was, someone needed to go just like, thumbs up, let's do this, and then jump in. But everyone was playing, again, a little cautious, because petrification is scary. But again, they wanted risks, they wanted non-human enemies, and they wanted stuff that could potentially kill them, and that's what we get. So we'll see if they want to go back to fighting bandits after this, after these encounters. But yeah, all in all, it was a lot of fun. It's good to be back. I'm really excited for later on in the season, exploring a new world, exploring a new economic system with the totally new coins that is driving everyone crazy. But I like that this area of the world feels different, and it's going to be different. And you're gonna, you know, rather than paying for a fancy new sword with 1,000 gold coins, you're gonna pay for it with 250 silver coins or something like that. And I really like that it feels different. There's a new language, there's a new place to explore. And so home will feel much more like home when we get there and we see these familiar faces, or maybe the familiar faces will make their way over here. Oh, one cool thing that I did, which I'll share with you guys. If you may have seen I had this iPad. It's because I typed up a little description for each room, and then I made an ebook. I don't know if you can see that. Do I need to tilt it down? Is that pretty good?
Tilt it more towards them.
So
yeah, it's pretty bright, but
anyway, it's just I had a little text box that I had pre-written. So I wasn't like, okay, in this room is this, and then like try to vaguely describe what's in my head. I like just have a concise way to do it. I have all the treasure listed. I have who's in what room listed, and I had it all hyperlinked. So, it's like exit double door to the south, and, you click it, and it takes you to room 15A. And so that was super easy and a lot of fun. And so that was just kind of a way of getting technology to work for me. Now, if only I could figure out a way to have the rooms slowly unfold in front of the table. I would love like a surface or something for the table. That's always the dream. But I don't want to use like a screen or something, because then I'm, half the time I'm here behind a laptop and the game's not engaging, and I'm not engaging with the players. I'm engaging with an interface that then they engage with another interface, which is sort of why I object. I actually don't do any kind of virtual tabletop at all. When I went away I left home, and I had some friends who were like, yeah, maybe we can do some online games, and I just don't do that, because I like the person-to-person social interaction, and I feel like if I'm gonna play a video game, like, let's play a video game, but it's just, then it's you sitting in front of your computer, and it's not the social interaction. Like, find a new group in your area around, because I'm sure that there are people out there somewhere. You just have to figure it out. But for some people, the interface works, but just not me. I think that's all. Give me your thoughts. Is there a tool that I'm missing that would solve all of my problems, that I'm just being technophobic in regards to that? Is there something that you would like to see in the season? Again, I don't have much in the second half after sort of these plot lines together. So tell me what you think. What would you like to see? What do you not want to see any more of? Did you like how we did the dungeon, especially once the podcast, the audio comes out for that? Was that a nice way to sort of let us do more adventuring without having it bog down the story, for people who want to get into the nitty-gritty of the game without having to sit for all that time? Tell us what you think. Please comments and follow us on Twitter. We're starting to have a great conversation. Please let us know what you think and what we can do, and we will see you on Monday with another episode, with the stunning conclusion to the Noddish Temple. Thanks for watching afterwards, and I will see you soon.